Hello there. This is Teresa Matsura, and you're listening to Uncanny Japan. I could tell you now that thing I've been wanting to tell you. So if you don't already know, I'll get to that. But first, this. Would you like to explore the stranger, more obscure corners of Japanese culture? Dig a little deeper into superstitions, curious customs, and all those mysterious creatures that inhabit the land? If so, then this is the podcast for you. Uncanny Japan is where I, author Teresa Matsura, share all the fascinating tidbits I unearth while doing research for my writing. From the bizarre to the ghastly, and everything in between. I hope you enjoy the show. Hey. So I've been given the okay to talk about the thing that I've been so secretive about. A couple months ago, I was contacted by Adams Media, an imprint of Simon & Schuster, about writing a book. And it happened. It's been a whirlwind, and it still is, but the publishing date is set for April 30th next year. The pre-order pages are already up on the Simon & Schuster website, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, etc. There will be a hardback, but at the moment, depending on where you are in the world, it looks like you can pre-order it, or you can't yet. Kindle seems to be available everywhere, though. I know it's still early, so I'll talk about it again closer to the publishing date. But pre-orders are super important because they let the publisher know how much interest there is in the book, and also the booksellers. If booksellers think the book will sell, they'll buy a bunch and stock it in their stores, which is an author's dream to actually have your book placed in a store. And also, if there are enough pre-orders, those sales stack up, and once released, the chances of, gasp, getting on a bestseller list is increased. So another dream come true. Anyway, they're kind of an indicator of the book's success. So here's the title and the description. It's called The Book of Japanese Folklore by Teresa Matsura. This book is a fascinating journey through Japan's folklore, through profiles of the legendary creatures and beings who continue to live on in pop culture today. From the sly kitsune to the ogreish oni and mischievous shape-shifting tanuki. Learn all about the origins of these fantastical and mythical creatures, with information on their cultural significance, a retelling of a popular tale tied to that particular yokai, and how it's been spun into today's popular culture. This beautifully illustrated tome teaches you about the stories and histories of the beings that inspired characters in your favorite movies, animes, manga, and games. Adventure, mystery, and amazing tales await in the Book of Japanese Folklore. Also, I'm really excited about the artist, Michelle Wong. The cover is so beautiful, and she's going to do a separate original piece of art for 30 of the 45 yokai talked about in the book, so I can't wait to see those. There are links on the website, and again, I'm sure I'll mention it again before it's all over with. As I'm literally finishing up the second half of the book as I talk to you right now, today I'm going to do another story time for Uncanny Japan. I'm not sure what the weather is like where you are, but it's warm, humid, pretty gross here. And I've just realized I've never read Yuki Onna or the Snow Woman by Lafcadio Hearn before. So let's fix that. Yuki Onna. In a village of Musashi Province, there lived two woodcutters, Mosaku and Minokichi. At the time of which I am speaking, Mosaku was an old man, and Minokichi, his apprentice, was a lad of 18 years. Every day they went together to a forest situated about 5 miles from their village. On the way to that forest, there is a wide river to cross, and there is a ferry boat. Several times a bridge was built where the ferry is, but the bridge was each time carried away by a flood. No common bridge can resist the current there when the river rises. Mosaku and Minokichi were on their way home one very cold evening when a great snowstorm overtook them. They reached the ferry, and they found that the boatman had gone away, leaving his boat on the other side of the river. It was no day for swimming, and the woodcutters took shelter in the ferryman's hut, thinking themselves lucky to find any shelter at all. There was no brazier in the hut, nor any place in which to make a fire. It was only a 2-mat hut with a single door, but no window. Mosaku and Minokichi fastened the door and lay down to rest with their straw raincoats over them. At first they did not feel very cold, and they thought that the storm would soon be over. The old man almost immediately fell asleep, but the boy, Minokichi, lay awake for a long time, listening to the awful wind and the continual slashing of the snow against the door. The river was roaring, and the hut swayed and creaked like a junk at sea. It was a terrible storm, and the air was every moment becoming colder, and Minokichi shivered under his raincoat. But at last, in spite of the cold, he too fell asleep. He was awakened by a showering of snow in his face. The door of the hut had been forced open, and by the snow light, the Yuki Onna, he saw a woman in the room. A woman all in white. She was bending above Mosaku and blowing her breath upon him, and her breath was like a bright white smoke. Almost in the same moment she turned to Minokichi and stooped over him. He tried to cry out, but found that he could not utter any sound. The white woman bent down over him lower and lower until her face almost touched him, and he saw that she was very beautiful, though her eyes made him afraid. For a little time she continued to look at him. Then she smiled, and she whispered, "I intended to treat you like the other man, but I cannot help feeling some pity for you, because you are so young. You are such a pretty boy, Minokichi, and I will not hurt you now. But if you ever tell anybody, even your own mother, about what you have seen this night, I shall know it, and then I shall kill you. Remember what I say." With these words, she turned from him and passed through the doorway. Then he found himself able to move, and he sprang up and looked out. But the woman was nowhere to be seen, and the snow was driving furiously into the hut. Minokichi closed the door and secured it by fixing several billets of wood against it. He wondered if the wind had blown it open. He thought that he might have been only dreaming, and might have mistaken the gleam of the snow light in the doorway for the figure of a white woman. But he could not be sure. He called to Mosaku and was frightened because the old man did not answer. He put out his hand in the dark and touched Mosaku's face and found that it was ice. Mosaku was stark and dead. By dawn, the storm was over, and when the ferryman returned to his station, a little after sunrise, he found Minokichi lying senseless beside the frozen body of Mosaku. Minokichi was promptly cared for and soon came to himself, but he remained a long time ill from the effects of the cold on that terrible night. He had been greatly frightened also by the old man's death, but he said nothing about the vision of the woman in white. As soon as he got well again, he returned to his calling going alone every morning to the forest, and coming back at nightfall with his bundles of wood, which his mother helped him to sell. One evening in the winter of the following year, as he was on his way home, he overtook a girl who happened to be traveling by the same road. She was a tall, slim girl, very good-looking, and she answered Minokichi's greeting in a voice as pleasant to the ear as the voice of a songbird. Then he walked beside her, and they began to talk. The girl said that her name was Oyuki, that she had lately lost both her parents, and she was going to Edo, where she happened to have some poor relations who might help her find a situation as a servant. Minokichi soon felt charmed by this strange girl, and the more that he looked at her, the handsomer she appeared to be. He asked her whether she was yet betrothed, and she answered laughingly that she was free. Then in her turn, she asked Minokichi whether he was married or pledged to marry, and he told her that, although he had only a widowed mother to support, the question of an honorable daughter-in-law had not yet been considered, as he was very young. After these confidences, they walked on for a long while without speaking. But as the proverb declares, "Ki ga areba, me mo kuchi hodo ni mono o yu." When the wish is there, the eyes can say as much as the mouth. By the time they reached the village, they had become very much pleased with each other. And then Minokuchi asked Oyuki to rest a while at his house. After some shy hesitation, she went there with him, and his mother made her welcome and prepared a warm meal for her. Oyuki behaved so nicely that Minokichi's mother took a sudden fancy to her and persuaded her to delay her journey to Edo. And the natural end of the matter was that Oyuki never went to Edo at all. She remained in the house as an honorable daughter-in-law. Oyuki proved a very good daughter-in-law. When Minokichi's mother came to die some 5 years later, her last words were of affection and praise for the wife of her son. And Oyuki bore Minokuchi 10 children, boys and girls, handsome children, all of them, and very fair of skin. The country folk thought Oyuki a wonderful person, by nature different from themselves. Most of the peasant women age early, but Oyuki, even after having become the mother of 10 children, looked as young and fresh as on the day when she had first come to the village. One night, after the children had gone to sleep, Oyuki was sewing by the light of a paper lamp, and Minokichi, watching her, said, "To see you sewing there with the light on your face makes me think of a strange thing that happened when I was a young lad of 18. I then saw somebody as beautiful and white as you are now. Indeed, she was very like you." Without lifting her eyes from her work, Oyuki responded, "Tell me about her. Where did you see her?" Then Minokichi told her about the terrible night at the ferryman's hut, and about the white woman that had stooped above him, smiling and whispering, and about the silent death of old Mosaku. And he said, "Asleep or awake, that was the only time that I ever saw a being as beautiful as you. Of course, she was not a human being, and I was afraid of her, very much afraid, but she was so white. Indeed, I have never been sure whether it was a dream that I saw, or a woman of the snow." Oyuki flung down her sewing and arose, and bowed above Minokuchi where he sat, and shrieked into his face, "It was I, Yuki it was. And I told you then that I would kill you if you ever said one word about it. But for those children asleep there, I would kill you this moment. And now you had better take very, very good care of them. For if ever they have reason to complain of you, I will treat you as you deserve. Even as she screamed, her voice became thin, like a crying of wind. Then she melted into a bright white mist that spired to the roof beams and shuddered away through the smoke hole. Never again was she seen. The end. Thank you for listening. I'll talk to you again real soon. Bye-bye. You've reached the end of the show, and I just want you to know how much we appreciate you listening and supporting us. Any subscribing, reviewing, and gushing to your friends, family, even random strangers really does help keep us going. If you have the means and you want to help a little more and get a little more, we are making extra content over on Patreon, all for only $5 a month. Or if you like to read horror, you might be interested in my Bram Stoker-nominated short story collection, The Carp-Faced Boy and Other Tales. 本当にありがとうございます. Thank you again, and I'll talk to you real soon.